GM, are we live?
GM, I believe so.
Excellent. Excellent. GM, everyone, welcome back to the Solana Weekly Wrap-Up, where we chat through Solana's biggest stories straight from the SolanaFloor newsroom. I'm joined, of course, by our senior journalist, Finn, and Mr. Thomas Bahamas today to break down what's moving the ecosystem, what's just noise, and I think most importantly, what's actually worth your attention. Finn, Thomas, massive GMs. Sirs, how are we doing?
Big GMs all around. Feeling good. Feeling excited about Breakpoint coming next week. I've been a bit blindsided just by the amount of news that's come out this week. I think, generally you expect that the week before a conference is going to be pretty chill. People are going to be holding on to their announcements and, waiting to deliver those on stage. But this week's been crazy, Jack. There's been all kinds of things happening across the ecosystem and really itching to get into it and pack it all up. Thomas, what's your feeling?
It's been anything but quiet. Yeah, Thomas, are you feeling that as well? The sort of the pressure building before the Breakpoint conference?
Good morning, guys. Yeah, of course I am. I first of all, this is my first Breakpoint that I get to go to. So I am extra excited for that. And I wasn't planning on it being this busy this week, right? I thought that we were going to kind of plan for everything, be super ready for it. But, it's coming right up. It's going next week. I've got a long flight ahead of me and we got a bunch to unpack from this week, right? So happy Friday.
How long is the flight? Let the people know how long you're going to be traveling for, because it blew my mind.
All right, so this proves my dedication for this event. It's 18 hours of travel without driving. So it's going to be over 20 hours total. We've got a long day ahead of us. I've got snacks, I've got some podcasts, I've got some audiobooks, hopefully we'll make it through. We'll see how it goes.
It's going to be a long journey to Breakpoint. I think now that all three of us are here, it's probably the best time to shill the Breakpoint live stream as well, right? So we, as SolanaFloor, will be live streaming for 3 full days with breaks. Obviously, we need to eat and rest and all the rest. But we're going to be talking to all the heavy hitters in the industry. You've got the DeFi overlords joining us. You've got some TradFi giants joining us, and even people like Anthony Scaramucci. So be there or be square. Also, another little plug, we are official media partners of one of the most exciting side events, I think, Predictify Everything. As the name suggests, it has everything to do with prediction markets. That's going to be with Solana Foundation, with Kalshi, with Phantom, with DFlow. So be there at the end of the day on the 13th of December. Hopefully see you there for some cocktails after the Breakpoint Madness. But most importantly, if you missed that 3-day live stream that's going to be going on during Breakpoint, you're probably going to have no idea what's going on for the rest of the year and the rest of 2026 as well. So be there or be square. It's going to be amazing. All right. Let's not waste any time here. Finn, Thomas, I feel like last week was carnage in terms of sentiment. This week we're seeing a bit of a shift. But we also expected a calm week ahead of Breakpoint. It's been anything but calm. Personally, I'm fuming. I wanted to spend the whole week preparing for Breakpoint. It's been a bit too hectic. Maybe we have to launch a proposal to make sure that teams just aren't allowed to announce anything for like a week and a half, 2 weeks leading up to Breakpoint, because it's been wild. We've seen token drama, perps with leverage, which super exciting, by the way. But my favorite part, I think, and we'll get into this in a second, possibly one of the biggest retail-facing airdrop setups that the Solana ecosystem's ever seen. So, Finn, I know you've been relentlessly covering all of the stories that are moving the ecosystem, but have you actually got any sleep this week?
It has been full on. Keeping a track of the Humidify Wet ICO dramas has been a full-time occupation. Yeah, huge week. Really dominated by Wet ICO, by the Seeker tokenomics drop, which has been eagerly awaited for a very long time. Personally, I didn't expect that we were going to get SKR so soon. The fact that it's coming in January is fantastic. And yeah, the flash trade perps on stonks is marvelous as well. That's going to be a huge onboarding option for getting more retail people into crypto without kind of having to get them to buy meme coins. So very excited about all the week that we've had.
Absolutely. Mr. Bahamas, I'm going to share my screen in a second, but before I got there, I just remembered you covered a story about whether or not DeFi was dead after the 1010 crash, that massive deleveraging where we saw basically $19 billion of wreckage. And I think, if we look at this last week, the last week's activity, all the announcements, I get the impression that we're anything but dead. We're very far from dead. What do you think? How do you feel?
Yeah, you're spot on. And I started out with that title in mind. I really wanted to research, like, is DeFi dead? Where are we at? And towards the end of it, I was like, we are not dead. And especially from this last week, I mean, the amount of flows that we're seeing, every metric that you really want to track is going extremely well on Solana right now. So I that's the title of the video, but if you actually, listen to all of it, it's basically, listing 10 different reasons why we're not dead. So yeah, we're doing great, and Humidify is a big part of that too. So I'm excited to talk about them. Oh, I think you're muted still.
There we go. We're back. I was just saying, let me share my screen. Let's dive right into the Humidify story, because the headline has ruffled quite a few feathers. Finn, unfortunately for you, I think it seems that people didn't see the inverted commas around the word terrible when you wrote this headline. Talk me through what's going on with Humidify. I know we all like the product. We all very much like the marketing around it as well. But it seems, that the headline didn't quite land. So what's going on there, Finn?
So it's been the #1 story of the week. It's all anyone can talk about. Humidify has released its tokenomics. It did that on Monday, and in the last 5 days, each day has brought new updates to the story. So we'll start at the beginning. Humidify, Solana's biggest prop AMM, doing 40% of volume across the network. It's just absolutely crushing it. It is a liquidity machine. They're launching the Wet token, and the tokenomics have got a lot of people concerned. The whole affair is dripping with controversy. The pie chart shows us that, in the words of disgruntled Solana DeFi users, 90% is going to the team, or team controlled accounts. So there's 25% to the labs, there's another 25% for ecosystem growth, and there's 40% allocated to the foundation, with only 10% left for the ICO. So people were upset because that's 90% of the token supply in the hands of the team, basically, and that gives them a lot of control and a lot of influence over how that plays out. Now, there's a lot of arguments here for whether this is good or a bad thing. A DEX, or a prop AMM with a 40% allocation to the foundation, asks a lot of questions. what's the foundation do in this sense? What's the role of each of these moving pieces? The other news that dropped for this was that Temporal was finally confirmed as the team behind Humidify. So full credit to Temporal, first of all. I think that they're a blisteringly intelligent group of guys. They're doing a lot of incredible work, and they're only expanding everything that they offer. So I think part of that is a lot of people also concerned that Wet becomes a proxy bet on Temporal, but Temporal itself is still maintaining a bit of distance, and this is still very much Humidify's token. So a lot of blurred lines here, first of all. Yeah, there's definitely a lot to unpack. When the ICO came, ICO sold out very, very quickly. The wet list sold out in a few hours. The Jupiter Stakers phase sold out in a matter of seconds. And then the public launch was botted into oblivion. You know, the entire supply got bought up in, I think, 505 milliseconds, fully went entirely to snipers. So anyone who's been on Solana for any amount of time would know that this is what was going to happen. You know, if you have an ICO, you're going to have bots. And I'm surprised that the Jupiter DTF platform wasn't aware of this to a degree. You know, you would expect that Jupiter, as the cracked builders that they are, they would have thought that this would happen. They would have prepared for that. But we did get a resolution. Humidify and Jupiter came out and said that they're going to launch a new token. They're going to do a pro rata airdrop to everyone who'd already bought in previous phases, and they're going to do and host another public sale to get that out. So a wild story, still developing, and I think people are just eager to kind of get into that pre-sale, that final public sale, on Monday the 8th. So yeah, lots to unpack. Thomas, what's your first takeaway from this whole scene?
So, I mean, the way that you described that, it kind of sounded like an old NFT mint, the way that they used to go, right? You know, like instantly when it's available to public, it sells out. Like I was a Jupe staker, or I am a Jupe staker, so I had an allocation, and by the time I went to actually look at it, I couldn't buy any, right? So I missed out personally, but it just kind of doesn't seem like they had everything set up right. You know, like it's I don't know, very popular, right? Like I love the protocol. The amount of volume they're doing is fantastic, but the way that this was done is just not quite there for me.
Yeah, I was wetlisted as well. I had an allocation through the Discord, and something that really stands out there is that, you know, everyone who was a wetter and in that Discord got a $500 allocation. Everyone who was on the Humidify leaderboard up to, you know, I think around the 40th, 50th, all got around, I think, $1,000 per allocation. And yet during that wetlist phase, there was a few wallets that were clipping in $20,000 worth into the sale. So people asked in the Humidify Discord where those wallets were, you know, who was allowed to get a $20,000 allocation when nobody else did. And they told us that was meaningful contributors and leaderboard top traders, which begs a lot of questions. You know, of the top 20 wallets, I think most of them didn't actually partake in the sale. So there's still a lot of lingering questions around who actually owns these wallets. You know, is it friends and family of the team? Is it the VCs who were supposedly not included in the tokenomics in the first place? Yeah, people have a lot of questions basically, and they're still unanswered for now. So, Jack, what's your feeling on the Wet ICO?
I mean, my take on it is great product, great marketing, terrible optics at the moment. I hope they managed to fix that. And by the way, I'm getting a message here. Someone just said, it sounds like I'm speaking through a polyphone from the 50s. Someone else said, are you recording this through a potato? So it seems I'm having some audio issues. I am going to try and fix that in a second. If I drop off, I will be back. But again, great product, great team, great marketing. Love the splash emojis. I love the fact that anything they like is wet. Anything they don't like is dry. It's mimetic, but then terrible optics at the moment. So what's in my mind is there a fix, or is the damage already done? I know your tweet of the week, which is my favorite part of the newsletter, we'll get to that in a moment, Finn, is about this attacker as well, who had, you know, the shameless response of Sybil attacking something like this and then demanding a refund. So, yeah, is the damage done already? Can they reel back from this? That's my question.
I think they can absolutely reel back from this. I personally really I want to see Wet succeed. I want to see Humidify succeed, because they are rewriting the rules of DeFi in a sense. You know, no other AMM has even come close to doing what they're doing. So if Wet does well, that is a kind of an indication that this is what the market wants, and that they should continue to do so. As we discussed last week, prop AMMs are making spot trading on Solana one of the most liquid venues, you know, in crypto. You know, Humidify is doing more volume on Sol USD pairs than Binance. So the product itself is phenomenal. Yeah, like there's no denying that. Yeah, whether it will live and die by the wet token, we'll have to wait and see. The tokenomics themselves, I think a lot of people have complained about that, and they've said, this foundation allocation, this team allocation is lopsided. I think it just gives us a scenario in which you have to trust the team. If you trust Temporal and Humidify to do the right thing and keep delivering on this and deliver, good utility for the token, then Wet's going to do well. If you don't trust them, then there's not really anything you can do, and you should probably avoid this. But I am looking forward to seeing what Wet does when the market arrives. Yeah, really hoping to see Humidify bounce back strong.
Definitely. Yeah, and they were hitting 40 to 50% volume of Sol traded, right? Wasn't that how high it was getting?
I think more than that of Sol traded, but the 40% figure was of total DEX volume across all pairs, which is remarkable because I think Humidify's TVL of liquidity is around 7 or 8 million. So they're doing billions of dollars worth of volume every single day with just 7-8 million in TVL. So it's just staggering capital efficiency.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I have to move on because it's my favorite story of the week. It's the airdrop coming from Seeker. Now, it's going to be the Seeker airdrop that's really dominating the headlines when they pull out a number like 30%. And I have all the reason in the world to open the second Seeker that I have somewhere in the background. I'm holding one here in my hand. The mobile team have done amazing work over the last few weeks. They announced their tokenomics, but I don't want to talk too much. I'm a little bit too excited about this, so I'm going to share my screen. But 30%, dudes. Do we love the number or do we love the number?
There's only one option, and that's that we love the number. 30% is a huge allocation to give to Seeker users. I think anyone who is a Seeker user is overjoyed with this tokenomic spread. Yeah, very, very exciting. Thomas, thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the second token that the Solana Foundation is actually launching, right? So I think that's huge. And then we're getting 30% actually distributed. I think that this is going to be big. So, I mean, if you have a Seeker and you're using it, it looks like you are definitely going to be getting a good allocation of this. And, I bought the first Saga, and that was, it was kind of, we didn't know what we were going to get. We didn't know what it was. And it ended up being incredibly profitable to just buy a phone because of that. So to reward people that are actually using it this time, I think is a better method of doing an airdrop. And I mean, I'm thoroughly excited with this, right?
I think there's also an important distinction to make in that, the airdrop isn't the end game of Seeker. This is actually just the beginning of starting a circular economy and really greasing the engine of what Seeker is trying to do, which is, in my opinion, one of the most ambitious crypto projects and ideas that we've ever seen. So I'm really keen to see how the future of crypto mobile plays out. They've announced the first cohort of Guardians, so Helios, Anza, 00, and Triton. I believe there may be one more, but in my view, my understanding is that these Guardians are almost ideologically the validators of the of the Seeker economy. So in the same way that you stake Sol to a validator for the layer 1, you can stake SKR to a Guardian, and that's going to maintain the integrity of the network in a sense. So that's verifying cryptographic proofs. That's for what I understand, that it's reading the reviews that have been made and making sure that they're all accurate and there's no symbols involved in that. So I don't know if that means that Mert and Austin from Helios and 00 are going to be mainly doing that themselves, but I think it's a great step towards making sure that the Solana dApp store functions as it's meant to and really tackles that duopoly like we're hoping.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the Guardians there, Finn, but people keep telling me I sound like I'm underwater. It's not looking good for me. So, yeah, my hope is that somebody maybe airdrops me a microphone or something, because this one seems to be not working. But aside from the Guardians, Thomas, I know you have quite a few Seekers, right? I think you have even more than I do. How many have you got there?
I've got 3.
Good go.
Wow, that is commitment. That is commitment. So another thing that we will be talking to Emmett Hollier, the general manager of Solana Mobile, during our live stream at Breakpoint. So if anyone watching this, if you have questions for him, do drop them in the chat and we will relay them. One question I have for now is, let's say you have a Seeker that you're using as your sort of daily carry, your everyday device. What else are you doing with it, Thomas? Do you know other people that are using it every day for anything other than farming air points?
I mean, I use it as a second phone. So like I genuinely like the phone. I feel like it's a lot more usable than the Saga was. You know, it's a hardware wallet as well, so it does have that extra step. And I mean, I've been checking out the ore mines with it lately. I mean, that's kind of what I've been doing with it lately. But yeah, I mean, there is a lot to do. I mean, it's a fully functional good phone. And then on top of that, you have the bonus of, you know, actually using like native apps on it as well. So I think it's a fantastic product. I've always liked the idea of Solana having a phone and the ability to just like fully like program native apps to it. I think is big, right? Because I think everything is going mobile, and to have a better experience doing that is really going to be a game changer.
Absolutely. Finn, I know you broke down the numbers, some rough back of the envelope sort of calculations as to, you know, when the token launches, how lucrative it might actually be for people, depending on what level they're in. You've got levels 1 through 5. I think most people start on level 3, but you know the holy grail seems to be level 5 for the maximum airdrop allocation. Can you give me a rough sense of what those numbers, what those calculations look like?
I can. It is hard to say. You know, this is a lot of hand wavy moon math based on, you know, what wallets make, what deep in nodes make, and basically at the bottom of the article we have a matrix. It depends basically where you expect the this SKR valuation to begin at. You know, if we ballpark figure, if we say that SKR launches with an FDV of 1 billion and you're level 3, that's perhaps we can expect to see around $60 million worth of SKR spread amongst everyone who has level 3. So what's that per device? I don't know. That depends on, you know, how many people have level 3, how many people have level 4. Is it a bell-shaped curve? Is it linear? Is it based on averages? There's so many moving parts that it's very difficult to estimate what you're going to get. I think the best thing to do is just use it organically, use it as it's intended, trade with it, muck around with all the apps, explore, and just kind of be happy with what you get, I think.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, I could talk about the Seeker all day. I'm sure we could talk about all the games. I've been exploring them, but realistically, we're on a tight schedule here. We want to talk about Remora and Flash Trade. So let me switch this over to the next tab because this is, in my mind, one of the most interesting stories of the week. I like to think of this as sort of real degen innovation, right? Because again, it was supposed to be a quiet week in Solana leading up to Breakpoint. No major announcements were supposed to be happening, but it's been anything but quiet. And this is one of those announcements as well. Flash Trade and Remora Markets launching on-chain equity perps offerings. Now, personally love the idea of being able to hold stonks on-chain because I don't want to be constantly off-ramping funds to buy, you know, Nvidia or Tesla and some boomer brokerage when I can just keep it all on chain, right? We believe in having funds on chain. So far, Remora has been great for that, but now we can leverage long. So Finn, talk me through this.
Yeah, so Flash Trade, popular Solana perps decks, they have enabled NASDAQ priced perps on Remora stocks. Remora stocks are the underlying asset. And yeah, I think this is a massive unlock, right? Because if you're trying to bring retail people into crypto and you say, oh, buy meme coins, you know, that's the way that you're gonna hit a 50% on you know, Peppy Frog Sol 2.0 Chill House, and you're throwing money into the roulette wheel and hoping that it comes out. If you can go, you know, 5x long, 10x long on Tesla, that is arguably a much more palatable and accessible way to get involved in crypto and find out what the on-chain world is all about than, you know, pure degenerate gambling. So I think it's a huge unlock. I think there's a lot of ways that a lot of people can kind of make peace with crypto if they see that anyone anywhere in the world with an internet connection can go 10x long on Tesla, or, you know, provide liquidity to a basket of assets like that. I think it's a massive unlock.
Absolutely, Thomas. You've been around for a while, mate. This is either sort of, as Finn mentioned, the final form of crypto, and it's going to make it really attractive. People are going to say, okay, the rails work. We don't have to get into the extremely degen side of it, or it's a regulatory aneurysm waiting to happen. So, which side of the fence are you on? Is this, you know, markets maturing, crypto maturing, and it's all good, or essentially just degens role playing on Nasdaq? What's your take?
I think this is huge. Okay, so I think the way that things are working is like TradFi and crypto, they're like slowly merging together, right? And this is crypto's side where we're actually able to take stocks, provide like a better way to actually trade them, hold them. And now I think that perps are an easier way for people to get leverage, right? Like I don't recommend everyone going out and going 100x long on any of these, but to leverage trade stocks seems a lot safer than when you're leverage trading crypto or meme coins. Like, to say safe when you're using leverage is, kind of funny anyways. But I actually really like it. I think that, the way that they're doing this is really unique. I like Flash Trade. I've used it for a long time. I spoke with Anos a year ago or so, and I love what they're doing. Right, like I had their NFTs that helped kind of fund their whole platform before it was there. So I like Flash Trade. I like Remora. The way that they're able to kind of bring this together, I think is fantastic. And you spoke about the pool. They have their FLPR pool, where if you want a basket of stocks and provide liquidity to it, you can do that on chain now, right? So I think that there is so much innovation there. I'm really excited about this. I think that this type of thing is like really what excites me, right? Like we're getting people that are going to be sticking around on chain for a long time and giving them better ways to use stocks, basically, right? So it's fantastic all around.
Absolutely. And to your point about the leverage,
Sorry,
luckily it's only 10x, right? I'm reading this correctly? It's maximum 10x. We're not suggesting anyone goes out there with 20, 50, 100x leverage.
For now.
Yeah. I think this is fascinating because it's almost like a two-way migratory flow. So we're getting all these TradFi bros coming on chain. We're getting new RWA treasury funds being launched on Solana almost every single day now. But we're also exporting this degenerate culture of like 10x long anything, and it gives people an elegant opportunity to, instead of holding Sol while it goes down or holding Bitcoin while it goes down, just open a 10x long on Tesla or open a 10x long on the S&P 500. Like that's pretty stable. Like to your point, Thomas, I don't want to say it's like safe because obviously it's not safe. Things can happen. You can get liquidated, but it's a much more palatable and appealing option, I think, for the average user to just hold their S&P 500 at a 3x leverage rather than holding this basket of altcoins that are unreliable at the best of times.
100%.
Yeah, I think the word safe probably very subjective, right? If someone's never really been involved in crypto versus someone considers themselves a crypto native and they've been leverage longing meme coins, I think the concept of safe is very very fluid in that sense. But I want to move on to the next one here because it's also very exciting for the degens. It's about prediction markets, Kalshi. Now, I love prediction markets. Little admission here, my first foray into prediction markets was back in 2016, leading up to Trump's first election. But at that point, it was purely P2P. So, me and my mates were sort of betting whether or not Trump was going to win the election. It seemed impossible. I made a small amount of money, but it's all P2P. It's, there's no sort of platform to do it back then. Fast forward to 2020, again, election period, Poly Market's already live. So, we went from joking about being able to do this through a platform to actually doing it through a platform. And it's crazy to think that in such a short period of time, Kalshi has already crossed, what, $20 billion in cumulative volume. I think they raised at an $11 billion valuation, and now they're on Solana. I think this is huge. I think this is really, really serious. And obviously, it's one of those potentially breakout sectors, right? It goes beyond CT. So Finn, talk me through the story. Do you agree that this is one of the most serious launches, serious stories of 2025, or is it just, it's another prediction market story?
I think the idea that it's just another prediction market story is an understatement. Prediction markets have been top of mind for a lot of people throughout this year. Obviously, election season brought that into full view. That was last year, but it's a building process. I think what the biggest unlock for me of this, and what I find most fascinating about Kalshi tokenizing these prediction markets, is that once something is tokenized, it becomes a lot more composable. There's a lot more you can do with it. So as we've seen, if you tokenize stocks, you can collateralize them, you can borrow against them, and you can borrow USDC and you can do other stuff. So does that mean that we're heading towards an area where we can do that with prediction market bets? Can I bid on a mentioned market and wait for Trump to say China and then borrow against that and use that capital somewhere else? I think the ceiling of what we can do with this is very high. And I think a lot of people haven't quite factored in just the breadth and the expanse of opportunity that comes with this. Thomas, are you a prediction market guy?
So I am not. So I have never even really used one. I need to get to use one now that Kalshi's on Solana. I definitely will. But I also think about, you can't talk about crypto in 2025 and not bring up prediction markets, right? The rise of poly market and Kalshi, you can't avoid them. You turn on the news, you see prediction markets and where they're sitting. You talk about any single election and you look at the prediction market. It's a really good way to get a good gauge about real events. And it's a great use of crypto in general. So I really like that they are there. I guess I need to start dabbling in them, is what it sounds like.
I'll tell you what, if you do decide to dabble in prediction markets, Thomas, look for Finn's calls. The man's got some sort of crystal ball, it seems. He'll randomly post a prediction or just, his feelings in Discord. And then 2 days later, someone's there with a screenshot saying, look, it came true. So I'm long anything that Finn predicts. Keep an eye out on Finn. Bullish Finn.
I
Generous.
will, and I think we're speaking to Kalshi at Breakpoint, if I remember correctly. So that'll be exciting to talk to them, and maybe we can make some prediction markets for our live stream while we're out there. I don't know how it works.
Let's see. We are media partners mentioned earlier briefly for the side event that they're going to be part of as well with Solana Foundation, DFlow, I think Phantom 2, maybe a couple of other names, but that's going to be December 13th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. local. Don't quote me on that. I might got the times wrong, but it's going to be a great side event. So go there for the cocktails. Now on to Camino. This entertained me because I love that Camino's there. They're solid. They're a great lend and borrow venue. But then, something happens. They're in the headlines and everyone's got their pitchforks out, right? So I'm going to read this from your newsletter segment, Finn. Camino's come under fire for implementing a program-level block that prevents users from migrating funds directly to Jupiter Lend via its refinance feature. Critics have slammed the move, accusing Camino of breaking the open finance rules. That's a sticky one, Finn. What else can we find here?
Yeah, there is some pretty flagrant commentary that was made by their competitor, Fluid, who runs Jupiter or operates Jupiter. This is a very nuanced story, right? It's easy to look at it at face value and say Camino is blocking this refinancing feature. Not cool. And yes, to my eyes, yes, that's not cool. But it raises a question that this was discovered because Camino's code base is entirely open source, and open source is a very fundamental part of DeFi. And it's something that isn't that common on Solana. So if you go back to Ethereum land, basically it's table stakes to be open source. Everybody is open source. Everyone can explore everyone else's code, and that's culturally baked into what Ethereum does. On Solana, that's really not something that apps and teams tend to do. I think if you want to count off all the open source apps on Solana, you'd be disappointed. Camino is really flying the flag of transparency there. So they're kind of a victim of their own commitment to making sure that we uphold these values. If Camino was closed source, nobody would have found this. Maybe people would have speculated that it could have happened, but yeah, they wouldn't have been given the smoking gun like this. Camino sympathizers in this case have said that if people can go into the code base and see something they don't like and then bully the team into changing, that's in everybody's best interest, and that's part of what makes crypto great. So yeah, I think there's a lot of nuance to the story. Yes, it's probably not great to block users from using certain features on other apps, but everyone needs to embrace open source culture a bit more, I think, in Solana.
Yeah. You know what it seemed like to me is it kind of seemed like a growing pain, almost like a short-term battle on how to best do this. And I think the key part here that I'm thinking about is the users win in the long run, right? Hopefully they open it up and, the users have better options and there are more ways to actually do this, I think, right?
Yeah, Thomas, I know you've interviewed plenty of Solana founders and builders and devs over the years. So I'm curious if you sort of zoom out and you think about all those conversations and the years of people commenting under these spaces that you've hosted and pieces of content that you've seen and the threads and so on. Do you get the sense that the Solana ecosystem really believes in free markets and open sourcing and all these core tenets of decentralization and disintermediation? As Finn mentioned earlier, it's sort of a given in the Ethereum ecosystem, right? But over in Solana land, is that also true, or is it a situation where we only believe in them if we're also part of the winning team?
Yeah, I feel like it's tough. I feel like we've struggled with this kind of throughout, the entire of Solana's history, right? Because it's very hard to build your product, build a company, and build a moat, if everything is open source and everybody can use it. right? So what we've seen a lot is like in competition, at least early on, that a lot are not open sourced, right? And usually once they get a little bit more matured, they do sometimes, and usually you see a backlash. Like for some reason, what comes to mind is like Magic Eden and NFTs. Like they made their NFTs not composable anymore to different marketplaces. There was a big outcry, right? All the users, everybody that had any sort of NFT project was making a big ordeal about it, and they ended up switching it, right? So I think that when it goes too far one way or the other, there is a backlash so that they do kind of come back towards the middle. But I'd say in general, it's really not as open source as we would like it to be, right?
Let's see where this one goes. I don't want mommy and daddy to be arguing. Basically, I want the biggest names in the Solana ecosystem. I want everyone to be friends. We've seen so many of these contentious situations in Solana land this year, whether it's the DATs, whether it's the launch pads, whether it's the meta DEX aggregators. Everyone seems to be fighting, and it makes me sad. I want everyone to be friends. But okay, let's move on. Last but certainly not least in the newsletter, it's story number 6, Marinade Select. I think this is huge. Super important actually for anyone that's involved in the Solana ecosystem, whether you're just a degen or whether you're staking significant sums or whether you're an institution coming in, because institutional momentum is growing obviously throughout 2025, and Marinade Select has now surpassed 3 million SOL in TVL. I think this is absolutely huge. Cue the Donald Trump gifts in the chat, please. And shout out to our data wizard, Ario, for this piece as well. Now, Finn, Marinade, it seems, have tripled the amount of SOL that they have in Marinade Select in a very short period of time. Is it from like November or something? What are we dealing with here?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Marinade Select is Marinade's, curated enterprise level secure, KYC validator pool that basically is the most trusted and reliable, or one of, institutional validator areas on Solana. So with the launch of the Canary Marinade Solana ETF, I believe that Marinade Select pool has just swelled in TVL like you would not believe. Like you said, it's done a 3x almost in a matter of days. And that really exemplifies kind of what Marinade has been pointing towards over the past year. There's been a very obvious trend that they're kind of going away from their MSOL liquid staking, which still exists and is still a great product, but they are really dialing into that institutional native staking option. That's been seen by the boosted yields of the stake auction marketplace. That's been seen by their willingness to develop the instant unstake protocol that they're using for native staking. So yeah, Marinade is going full institutional, and it's evidently working for them.
I think you're muted there, John.
Muted there. Thomas, what do we think about this shift towards, Marinade? If you think about Marinade being the original, one of the best, biggest, most trusted names in the Solana ecosystem, now focusing their attention, their time, their energy, their effort towards being an institutional staking partner. What do we feel about this shift?
Yeah, I guess there's a couple things there. I mean, first of all, I'm excited to see Marinade do so well, right? Like OG protocols, they've been here since the beginning on Solana. So to see them, be this successful, I'm very happy with. And it seems kind of like they found like their product market fit, more on the corporate side, right? Which is fine. I think of like, all right, I'd want to stake, 100 SOL or 200 SOL with them, where, they're talking to people that are staking millions of SOL. So they're talking to the people that they need to talk to, and they're doing a fantastic job doing it. So I think that they're talking to the right people, they're doing the right things, and I'm extremely happy for the outcome of this. It looks like they're crushing it, right?
It certainly does. Yeah, Finn. Some of this data is obviously very impressive. Is there anything that really stands out from Ario's report here on Marinade and institutional staking that you thought maybe this is a bit of a surprise, or to Thomas's point, is this something that we expected and now it's finally materializing?
I guess the thing that is most surprising for me is just the trend away from liquid staking towards native staking at an institutional scale. I'm a big advocate of liquid staking tokens. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic that anyone can continue to earn staking rewards while remaining composable in DeFi and being able to do everything that comes with that. That's the big standout for me, because Marinade in its birth and at its origins was focused 100% on liquid staking, and now they have pivoted to this institutional native staking angle. But the pivot has been realized. More of their stake is streamed towards institutional native staking. So I think it's showing the signs of success that they were after.
Definitely. In the long run, we want more of this institutional capital to be parked for longer periods of time. I know a few weeks ago, one of the tweets that you shared in the newsletter was about institutions when they buy, they're not looking to make overnight trades, right? These guys are coming in with huge clips, and they're probably going to park it there for 6 months, for 12 months, for 18 months. And that's a huge vote of confidence in the ecosystem at all overall. So overall, I would say very, very bullish. And shout out to Ario for putting that report together. Lots of great charts. Okay, now, I think you know what time it is, Finn. We're going to switch over tabs here. It is time for the honorable mentions. There's like 25 stories this week that unfortunately didn't make it into the newsletter. Only 6 of them can make it in every week. So hold your breath. Finn, take a deep breath. The floor is yours.
All right, so honorable mentions this week, and what a week it was. Let's kick it off. Solana stablecoin supply hits a new all-time high of $16.2 billion. SolFlare announces SolFlare Shield, a nice little card-shaped slim tap-to-use hardware wallet. Hastrify has launched Prime, offering real estate-backed lending yield to its holders. Drift, Solana's leading perps DEX, is launching its V3 trading platform. Fuse Wallet is launching a Hide My Wallet feature. Soulmate, the DAT, has acquired Rockaway X, who was one of its backers. Rockaway X was one of the original Sol investors. So, interesting to see that DATs are now acquiring VC firms. There's probably a bit more to explore around that. Revolut is introducing support for Solana-based payments and staking. Vanguard, the world's second largest asset manager, has listed crypto ETFs on its platform. Vanguard previously was very anti-crypto, so to see them do this 180 and then start listing ETFs is mind-boggling. Franklin Templeton's Solana ETF SOEZ, the ticker SOEZ, goes live on NYSE Arca. Again, that speaks to the caliber of the week we've had. If Vanguard listing ETFs and Franklin Templeton's ETF getting listed on the New York Stock Exchange is relegated to being an honorable mention, really shows that we're dealing with a lot of news this week. Finally, Ford Industries has announced the development of its own prop AMM. So while Humidify is completely dominating the Solana DEX scene, Ford Industries, Castle Mining and the gang, alongside Galaxy Digital and Jump, I believe, don't quote me on that, want a share of the pie and they want to jump in on that. Another little honorable mention that just jumped out in the last few minutes is that Hilo is launching its Season 1 rewards campaign after a very successful Season 0 campaign that helped them bring up 100 million in TVL. So go check that out. Go see what's going on with Hilo, because that's a really fantastic DeFi protocol that I think we should all be.
What a wild list of honorable mentions, right? It seems like this is sort of a monthly roundup at this point rather than a weekly roundup. But a couple of these things I want to touch on very, very briefly. Obviously, we were talking about Solana Mobile in the newsletter. So, hardware, there's a bit of a parallel there with SolFlare. SolFlare Shield, tap to use hardware wallet. It seems like that you've got to be super confident in your ability to manufacture and distribute something like a hardware wallet at this point in the cycle, right? And we are going to be talking to SolFlare during the Breakpoint live stream as well. So if anyone has specific questions about the hardware wallet or what the guys at SolFlare are doing, do let us know and we will relay that and ask them about it. But I think this is like you got to back yourself to turn around in December 2025 and turn around and say we're going to launch a hardware wallet. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree. There's so many established names in the hardware wallet space that entering that market now is obviously difficult. But SolFlare, they do great wallets. They have for a long time. They developed the Seed Vault wallets and the Seeker as well. So I would expect SolFlare knows what they're doing with this, and they've got a great plan to move forward. That's my take. Outside of that, Thomas, what stands out for you on this list? What's your biggest takeaway?
I'd say first of all, I'm pretty excited about the SolFlare hardware wallet. I feel like there aren't that many that are like super native to Solana. Like a ledger, like you send any token other than Sol to, will it show it on your ledger? Not always. I feel like that there is like a little bit of room for a really good Solana native hardware wallet. It is a busy market, but yeah, I like that. I also actually kind of like the real estate backed lending yield to that they're giving up with Prime. So I kind of read this at first. I was like, why are they doing this? Like, this seems like incredibly risky. But I think that what we're going to see is like interest rates in general are going to lower down. So people are going to be looking for other like different forms of yield. And I think that that's a very like sustainable yield to bring on chain that people are going to go after. So like it might not seem like the most popular thing. I think it's 8% APY. I'm sure that you'll be able to like degen loop that down the way, but it seems like a sustainable yield that they're bringing on chain. that will be more popular as things go. So I'm actually pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I always do have a lot of questions around, sustainable real world yield on chain. I feel
Yeah.
like there's so many regulatory clauses in that, and there's so many touch points where things can go wrong in that. So, yeah, like, obviously I've got no idea about Hashify. I haven't looked into that at all. But yeah, the real world yield on chain is a deep rabbit hole, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's only going to get bigger, right? Like I think that people are always seeking yield, right? You know, you're always farming something. You come into crypto and you want yield or you want a token that goes up a lot. So I think that that's just going to be something that people are going to always want.
Although, like, counterpoint, and feel free to disagree on this. If I want yield, I want to know exactly where that's coming from. Like, I want to be able to
Yes.
deposit my USDC on some DeFi app like Camino, like Loopscale, whatever, and know that I'm getting my yield from other people who are borrowing, not from holding a token that has some, abstract real world use case that I'm not quite sure about, that I haven't, dotted the I's and crossed the T's on. So I think there's both sides to that, and any RWA team that is building yield bearing products really needs to demonstrate where that yield is flowing from, transparently
Yeah.
as possible.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably a fair point, and I would imagine that there are a lot of people that are already probably doing this in the real world, getting that interest. So they see something like this and like, hey, this is a better way to do it. Let's go on chain with it, right? So, we'll see.
Yeah, I think to your point, Finn, anyone who's been around for more than a couple of cycles and seen the industry sort of melt slash implode under the weight of unsustainably high yield offerings probably falls into that same category of, hey, look, I want to know where the yield's coming from. Have a bit of a transparent sort of form of communication about what you're doing with these assets, because the alternative, as we saw in past cycles, is absolute catastrophe, right? So I'm super excited to see how this real world yield is communicated to people on chain. And overall, super bullish. Again, ties into not needing to take my funds off chain. I want to keep all of my assets on chain for as long as possible. So I think that really, really ties into this. Oh, before we get to my favorite part of your newsletter, Finn, which is the stat of the week and the tweet of the week, I want to ask you about this prop AMM news. I know you think a lot about AMMs and prop AMMs particularly. You've written about them a lot. You've covered it quite consistently over the last 6 to 12 months. What do we think?
Well, we don't know a whole lot about what the Ford Industries prop MM is going to look like.
Precisely.
Yeah,
We want to know more.
Well, we can assume that Galaxy Digital, they're smart. Jump Crypto, they're smart. They'll have a great approach. They've obviously got all the money in the world to do this properly, but are they going to be able to storm in and dominate the guys like Humidify, who we've said, like Solify, who have really been commanding this entire niche for a long time? Yeah, I don't know. Is there going to be a token for this new Ford Industries prop AMM? Probably not, because they have their own equity thing. I think there's prop AMMs in general. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of black boxes that supposedly just work. Having big names operating a new one doesn't necessarily give me a vote of confidence. It needs to be tried and tested, and we need to see it play out before our eyes, and we need to see how markets react. If they come in and they've got this revolutionary new tech, and that means they can quote tighter spreads than Humidify, then full power to them. But until that happens, until it happens on mainnet, nothing is real, So a cautious eye, cautiously optimistic that it's a great product, but until we see it, it's just a bunch of big names doing a new product.
Finn
Yeah.
says, show me the money.
Show me the volume. Show me the capital efficiency, and then I'll be jazzed about it. But until that happens, it's a headline waiting to happen.
What do you
Yeah,
think,
that's
Thomas?
gotta be one. That's gotta be one of like the most competitive markets to go after, right? Like it's not like that's going to be an easy way to just jump in and do. Like they've got to be hiring people that were working on other ones or have some sort of like revolutionary tech that could actually, take over some of that volume, right? Like it doesn't seem like an easy thing to just jump into.
Unless maybe you have, deep enough pockets, as Finn mentioned, to raise what, a $1.65 billion pipe for your treasury, and your sort of partners with some of the wealthiest organizations out there. Who knows? We
Yeah.
just don't know how much money is going to be deployed into this thing, right? So maybe 6 weeks from now, we're all going to be laughing at how silly this little segment was, and it's going to be the best thing that's ever been spoken about in DeFi media since sliced bread. Let's see if that happens. Okay, I'm going to scroll down a little bit, Finn. I can't wait anymore. My favorite part of your newsletter is the stat of the week. The tweet of the week this week is, I think, a little bit more humorous. But talk me through what's going on here with DEX volumes, with aggregator order flow. What's going on? What are we looking at here?
So, stat of the week, we are again looking at prop AMM dominance. So on the left, we have DEX volume from aggregators. And as you can see, that is up and to the right, basically, ever since that huge spike we had in January. And as we all know, January was the launch of the Trump coin. So there's a lot of ways that you could look at this. A high orange line here, or high flow from aggregators, suggests a lot of retail traders who just go to their Phantom wallet and they put in the swap feature and they get out what they get out. Or they go straight to Jupiter and they swap there. A lower one would suggest that we've got a lot more people using platforms like Axiom or like Trojan or any of these meme coin trading terminals. Flow from DEX aggregators is pretty much as high as it's ever been, which maybe that's a good sign. Maybe that means that the liquidity is flowing, that new people are coming in, and that everyone wants to be on chain. Who knows? The second part of the stat is just a visual on the extraordinary control and influence that Jupiter and Humidify collectively own over DEX volume. In weeks past, there was a bit of a flare up from other DEX aggregators. We saw a lot more volume coming in for Titan and for DFlow. That has receded a little bit. Jupiter's, I think, weekly dominance or daily dominance is back to around 93% of all volume, and they are reasserting their grip on the entire DEX market there, or DEX aggregator market. Sorry. So yeah, the second graph there is basically just a visual representation of Jupiter and Humidify, who are dominating DEX volume.
It's looking tasty for them indeed. Now I can't wait anymore. Right? State of Solana in a tweet. This made me laugh. I actually saw this before reading your newsletter, and then I got the notification and read through the newsletter and saw that you'd included it in here as well. I think this is absolutely hilarious. Talk me through this daring decision from Ramar. What's going on here?
So Ramar XYZ, the infamous wet sniper who supposedly claimed 70% of the Humidify pre-sale using 1,000 plus wallets, when he found out that actually Humidify was going to do another public sale, they're going to do a new token, do a pro rata drop to everyone who'd already bought in, he's devastated because obviously he will have spent a huge amount of priority fees making sure that these all went through and that he was able to eat all the supply. And now he's pissed because, yeah, he basically lost money when he thought he was going to be up a tremendous amount. My feeling on this is like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, right? If you're gonna go and you're gonna try and bot 70% of the supply, you have to be ready for the fact that there might be some consequences, that people might turn around and say, oh, we're gonna do a new token actually. Sorry, everything you just spent thousands of dollars sniping is now worthless. He did ask for a refund. Brazen, to say the least. Thomas, what are you thinking?
I mean, asking for a refund is just hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad to see that like a sniper didn't take so much of the supply and run off with it and just like completely ruin it, right? Like at the end of the day, it is still a really good protocol doing great things, right? So I want the token to succeed, but like that whole situation is just hilarious, right? What do you think, Jack?
I mean, we had the whole, I think it was Jack Kubenek that broke the story, right? There was the Bearer Chain refund story as well. I mean, slightly different circumstances, but it seems we've got to a point in the cycle, in my mind, where, you can definitely play stupid games, but you're giving the people the ability to turn around and say, okay, I'm actually not very happy with how that turned out. Can you please give me all of my money back? And, you're here participating in a permissionless system, okay, but asking for your money back if it doesn't go your way was not part of the deal, as far as I'm aware. So I feel like it's just late cycle madness, and we're all suffering from it because we're either sidelined or we're down bad. I'm not too sure, but it seems like it's refund season.
Yeah, and like other side of this coin, if he had gone ahead and gotten the entire supply and then Humidify hadn't launched a new token, would they be within their right to ask that he refund everything he sniped?
Probably.
No? I would say so.
Probably, yeah. It seems only fair, right? But then who's going to police it? No one's out here saying, here are the rules. So yeah, interesting times. All right, I think that is all we have time for this week. Finn, Thomas, thank you for sharing. Thanks for keeping us all informed. And for anyone listening, if you do want Finn's full breakdowns and the spicy, spicy hot takes every week, then you can get to SolanaFloor.com and subscribe to the newsletter. It is delicious and you will learn a lot. I apologize for the quality of my microphone today. We are going to figure it out. Finn, Thomas, I'll see you next week. We're going to be live for 3 straight days from Breakpoint, Abu Dhabi, in the Etihad Arena. How are we feeling?
Oh,
I
man.
am fizzing. I think this is going to be the best breakpoint yet. We're talking to so many incredibly intelligent people. Yeah, I'm absolutely beside myself. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited too. So I feel like people were kind of front running the Breakpoint news cycle, so they're kind of releasing like what they've been up to. But like that's the warm up for what's going to be going on when we're out there. So to be on the ground when people are actually releasing everything is going to be so exciting. So we do have a booth right next to the main stage. So we'll be out there. People will be presenting and then coming to our booth and talking. So I'm very excited about this whole setup. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. And if you have any major news you want to talk about, you want to hop on the live stream, you can come and chat to us. We'll see if we have any slots available. It's going to be a busy 3 days in Abu Dhabi. So Finn, Thomas, once again, thank you very much for your time, guys. And we will catch up during the live stream in Abu Dhabi next week.
All right. Thanks again, Jack. See you next week.
Yep. See you guys next week. All right.